Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Kelly. Welcome to Being the Change. I'm gonna get started by reciting my inspiration. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, which most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child. I'm having a hard time with this today. You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will not feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson. I'd like to say welcome to everybody who's watching me for the first time, and welcome back, and thank you to everybody who's been following me on this journey where I started in 2019. Stating out loud that I was breaking up with fear, I was breaking up with shame, and I was breaking up with guilt, with a weekly video letting you know how fear, shame, and guilt was not breaking up with me as easily as I thought it was going to. And for 2020 was to be kinder and more compassionate to myself and others. And 2021 is to break up with processed sugar, which, you guys, oh my God, I have to tell you this. Part of my process has been, thinking things are going to be easier than they are. And usually they're a lot harder. So I got to go away for a couple of days. I got to go to the beach and it was so nice. And I didn't have my regular food with me. And I had a little bit of grape jelly with my eggs. Thanks to my friend Michelle Curley's dad for that one when I was 12. And so anyway, I wasn't perfect and I tried to be as good as I could. I don't want to say good or bad, but I did the best that I could. But that night, I had a dream that I ate like donuts, and it was horrible. It was like, because I'm in recovery for alcoholism, every once in a while I get these, they're called drunk dreams. And it's like I'll have a dream that I drank and it is scary as shit, and they're so real when they happen. And when I wake up, I'm like, oh my God. And the one thing I always think about is, when it's in my dream, is, oh my God, I relapsed. I have to start all over again. And that's what happened when I had this dream that I relapsed on sugar. It was like, oh my God. And then I'm like, I better have ice cream. And then it wasn't true. And I didn't do it. And I don't have to start all over again. But that's the first one I've had since I've quit processed sugar, by the way. So anyway, that is that story. And the other thing is, how I said I broke up with fear, shame, and guilt. And right now, as I'm doing this video, I am having a shame attack. I've been cutting my hair for hours. And it happens every time I get my hair cut. I cut my hair myself, and then I have to go find people who don't shame me for cutting my own hair. And I feel so much shame around having the perfect haircut. I don't know what it is, but if you ever watched When Harry Met Sally, I'm Sally. And you know what's so funny? I used to feel shame about being Sally, when really, guess what? Sally was fine. It was Harry that couldn't ask for what he wanted or for what he needed. So I look picky when I'm around people who can't ask for what they want or for what they need. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about this week is self-soothing and comforting. And my grandmother is in the hospital. This is my mom's mom. And my grandmother, my entire life, has said not nice things to me. And you know, we would go to a baby shower and I'd be so excited to see all my relatives, and I would get there and walk into the room and the first thing she would say is, "You've gained weight." And it was almost like somebody just popped my balloon and deflated the life out of me. It was awful. And she was is a very difficult person to be around. And I went to go see her about 6 months ago, and I haven't seen her in a really long time. I don't talk to my mother. I haven't talked to my mother since I've been in my 20s, around 22. No, actually around 24. I haven't talked to my mom, and I'm gonna be 50 this year. And so anyway, I had this urge to go see my grandmother, and when I got there, the day I went, there was a guy outside, and the guy outside lived next to her. She's in a row house, and he's like, I knocked on the door. He's like, "You're going in?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I tried for a year." I'm like, "You lasted an entire year? Like, bless you." And this guy, he had porch furniture, he had flowers. It looked like love lives there. And my grandmother's house is right next to his. No flowers, no nothing, no porch furniture, all concrete and a broom. And it looked like love doesn't live there. And it didn't. It doesn't. And I went in to see her, and she kept telling me how I'm going to hell. And she said that to me my whole life. And that day what I saw is she lived in hell, not me. And every time I started to mention something that she didn't want to hear, she started to pretend like she couldn't hear me. And I don't know if she could hear me or not hear me, but when I was a little girl, I had ear infections after ear infections after ear infections. I could not hear. And so anyway, that day, she was giving me advice on how to I should forgive my mother. And I said, I do forgive my mother, but I just am not ready to talk to her yet. And then I was telling her about the neighbor, and she's telling me that his dog pooped on her yard 25 years ago, no, 25 years ago. And that's why she can't stand the neighbor, and he doesn't own the dog anymore. And you know, it's over. But she was giving me advice on forgiveness when she can't forgive the guy who doesn't even own the dog that pooped on her yard 25 years ago. So it's hard to want to take forgiveness advice from somebody who talks like this. So anyway, but at one point I was trying to talk to her, and I started to like yell at her, and then I noticed she couldn't hear me. And even when I did talk to her, when she could hear, she never listened. So that day I realized she never listened. And whether I scream at her or talk to her, she can't hear me. But what happened that day is every time I got up to leave, she wanted me to stay. Every word out of her mouth was, "Get away from me." At least that's what I felt when she was talking to me. But every time I went to leave, she wanted me to stay. And I realized she didn't know that the words coming out of her mouth and what she actually wanted were two different things. And as a little kid, I've had anxiety, but didn't know it. I had ants in my pants. And what did we do? We pretended like we have no ants. There's no ants. Sit on my hands, do all this stuff. So now they have all these fidget things, these like pop things that they sell down the shore. You know, they're for fidgety people, ants in your pants. I have a pillowcase and I tickle the corners, and that soothes me and gives me comfort, and it calms my anxiety. And I bring it in the car, and I tickle it in my house. It just makes me feel better. I sleep with it. So I want people to know that if I ever go to the hospital or I ever go somewhere and I can't talk. You're like, does Michelle have her pillowcase? Is she comfortable? I'm not gonna hide it anymore. I'm not gonna be embarrassed of it, and I'm not gonna live in shame. But my grandmother is now in the hospital. And I called my aunt and I said, is there anything we can do? She can't have any visitors. She has COVID. She's also very sick on top of it. She's like, nothing. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can bring her. There is nothing to comfort her with. And that's when I realized she never attached to anyone or anything. And there is nothing that anybody can bring her comfort. There's nothing to bring this woman comfort, because her only comfort was making others uncomfortable as she was. And that was her power. And she doesn't have that power over me anymore. But what I was able to do was, they said she could have pictures in her room if people colored her pictures. And I color in a Care Bear coloring book every day. And I cut out my Care Bear pictures and I brought them to the hospital. And they're gonna put them up in her room. And I was able to bring her a card. And then I wrote a guided meditation and recorded it. And all of the people that have done it, who've been able to do it, have been able to relax and see people who have passed away. And I was able to bring an old cell phone and put the guided meditation on this old cell phone, and they're gonna play it for her, and it's in my voice. So hopefully she can have some peace, because she's never, ever had peace. But I have peace, and I can give peace now. And before I couldn't, but I have it to give, and that is such a gift. So thank you for everyone who's watching. Please stay tuned, and I will see you all next week.